Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Thank you so much, Professor Muzaffar, to having me for having at least a voice from Iran in very important panel. First of all, I would like to express my grief and sadness for what was happened in Saudi Arabia 3 weeks ago during the greatest practice of all Muslims, their annual pilgrimage to Mecca, which is called Hajj. This year, about 5,000 pilgrims from different parts of the Muslim community were killed. Around 500 of them were Iranians. Iranians, like the other Muslims and believers around the world, are shocked for this disaster. Still, there is no clarification and no justification from the Saudi Arabian government for this horrifying incident. I would like to ask you for a couple of seconds, pray for the souls of the people who were killed in silence. It was 1979 when the Islamic Revolution in Iran, guided by Imam Khomeini, took place. Since then, oppressed people, mostly Muslim, especially in the Middle East, Asia, and Africa, came to be convinced that there is a huge capacity in religion for liberating people from tyranny and dictatorship. Contending the idea that liberation dream comes through only through Marxism and leftist militant groups. Also, it was defeating the idea of Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche that God is dead, and Karl Marx's motto, religion is opium. More recently, Islamic awakening or Arabian Spring has shown an updated version of liberation and freedom by religion within the Muslim countries. There is a challenge and debate that these movements, as the secularist groups say, are merely effort for achieving democracy, or it is an Islamic awakening. I'm not expert in politics to discuss more about this issue, rather than as associate professor in philosophy of religion and a person being engaged for years with inter and intra-faith dialogues, I prefer to talk and elaborate the concept and the cause of religious radicalism and sectarian violence. Contesting and challenging for power, as it has mentioned in the brief introduction and abstract of Vanna, between Saudi Arabia and Iran, or Iran and Turkey for regional hegemony, or the sectarian conflicts among the Muslims in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Lebanon, etc., are absolutely non-Quranic and un-Islamic phenomena, which created by both politicians and exclusivist Muslims who do not following the measuring tool of rational. There is no competition among Muslims according to Quran, but for common good, according to 2nd chapter, verse 148, and 5th chapter, verse 448. It is a major sin to kill human being. Killing a human being is like killing the whole humanity. By talking to each other, Shia and Sunni will be able to save lives, which is like saving the whole of humanity, according to Quran, chapter 5, verse 32. Imam Khomeini said in a speech at Qom about 20 years ago, the filthy hands which aggravate the differences between the Shiites and Sunni Muslims belong neither to Shiites nor the Sunnis. They are the hands of colonialists which plan to take the Islamic countries out of our hands. The colonial powers who want to plunder our wealth through various schemes and conspiracies are the ones who has plots for creating division under the pretext of Shiism or Sunnism. Muslim religious leaders are making little progress in overcoming sectarian differences. They often issue ceremonial statements to create the impression that they are above these sectarian differences. But what's the main reason of this violence and sometimes hypocrisy? My answer is religious and epistemic exclusivism, or in other words, universalism, that says my truth is the only truth, or says my truth is everyone's truth. If we attempt to use the common faculty of reason to elaborate a universal, the phenomenon is markedly different, but the outcome is the same. As we make our way to the common good of men, we accept by definition the existence of a multiplicity of viewpoints. The need for postulates, doubts, and even the paradoxical contradictions of analytical reason, irrespective of whether or not we believe in the existence of a truth or meaning, even though we accept in theory that there are many hypotheses and many truths, there is a danger that in practice we will assume that our certainties and truth are exclusive, or that we will pass a final judgment on those who seem to have taken a different path. They are alienated, to use Feuerbach categories, or what Sartre describes as minds that have been colonized by bad faith. It has often been said that religious minds or people of firm convictions are the most likely to surrender to the temptation to appropriate the universal and to assert that they have a monopoly on it. That is quite true. If we believe in one God or in the one path that leads to truth and fulfillment, there is a real temptation to speak for or in the place of the God in whom we believe, or in the name of the spiritual truth we support. The history of religions and civilizations is adequate proof of that. We have to evaluate our postulates and beliefs, our idea of truth and men, and even to be more specific, our personal philosophies, our nations, and our societies. Just because of the shortage of time, I wanted to mention a good effort and blessed, actually, action by the Jews, Christians, and Muslims in this regard. That is what the rabbis and Jewish thinkers did when they tried to explain the profound meaning of the concept of the chosen people. It means, in their view, that the Jewish people have been chosen in a spiritual sense, and that they therefore have a great moral responsibility to transmit moral values to humanity. Being chosen is therefore not their arbitrary and exclusive privilege of the few, but a requirement of exemplarity and service for humankind at large. We find the same approach in Christian tradition and the analysis of theologians who suggest a broader and more open reading of the idea of election and redemption, which are possible only through the mediation of Jesus, or even the church, according to the famous no salvation outside the church. Muslim scholars have done similar exegetical work on the formula, you are the best community established among men, according to Quran chapter 3, verse 110. They explain that the precondition for this election is the promotion of the good, being a model and bearing witness, and demonstrating ethical consistency towards all men. Such interpretations attempt to get back to basic teachings and the rationality that lies beyond the temptation
Rasoul.
of dogmatism, the last sentence, and exclusivism. This is a requirement of faith, the heart, and the mind, in the name of primary membership of humanity, We must never deny the common and equal dignity of all human beings. And endorsing the comments that Father previously said, we have, fortunately, a fourth forum, a Christian-Muslim forum in Tehran next year, 2016, on the importance and holiness of human being, and discussing and dialoguing about human being rather than religions and our theological doctrines. Thank you so much.